Hello, everybody. I'm Terry McMahon, and thanks so much for stopping by. We have something really, I feel, truly amazing to look at today, and I guarantee you the next few minutes of your time will not be wasted in any way, shape, or form. Just a couple of standards before we get right to it. Anything you ever see from us, we hold to some standards. One is we only do our kind of research on legitimate sources. That would be scans and pictures and images anywhere from Ranger to Gemini to Apollo to the shuttle missions to ISS to infrared orbital photography and video, ground-based. There's some great researchers out there all over the world that are doing fantastic infrared work. And known sources. If anything is ever a hoax that we republish, we'll take it down and we'll tell you it's a hoax. If anything that we're looking at or studying, if there turns out to be an explanation for it, whatever that explanation is, we will certainly update and post that. We've got something here, though, that I think is pretty amazing. I haven't seen it ever before, and I look at hundreds of things every single month, like so many of you. I'm sure it's been seen and talked about before. We've just never seen it ourselves, but it's important, and it's absolutely inexplicable. You know, there's always things that you look at, and you can say, well, yeah, that could be a structure, or am I just looking at something depixelated, overly pixelated, too much contrast, and we're just seeing bunnies in the clouds. That's always the thing you try to worry about. So we try not to talk and look at those things that you really just cannot tell if it's just something geological or it's just an artifact on the scan or the film. But every now and then comes something, especially from the moon, that is absolutely inexplicable as what we're about to show you. Let's just get right into it. Just so you know, we'll post the coordinates here on this page, so be just sure to look at it because you can go see it yourself. Be sure when you're in Google Moon to click Lunar Orbiter Mosaic for one of the global maps, because that's where you'll see it. You will not see it on the visible imagery. You have to click the Lunar Orbital Mosaic. With that said, let's get right into it. I really don't even need to announce it because as we zoom down here, you're going to start seeing it in about right now. This appears to be a very large artificial structure on the moon. And here we go. Let's take a look at it. Let's zoom in because we just find it amazing. Do you see it? I'm sure you do. This appears to be some type of artificial structure, whether it's alien, whether it's us, whether it's a little bit of both, who knows? But the one thing we do know, this is not a scratch on the emulsion. This is not some kind of artifact on the scan. This appears to be some kind of very large structure, and we have two corroborating structures near here that we want to show you in just a minute or so that I think will blow your mind. It surely just blows our minds. But look at this. It's a clear structure of some sort. You can see clearly this top bright surface up here. You can see that there are levels below it. You can even see the shadows. So it appears that there's almost like you could walk under it, or it's a lot bigger than walking, of course, so you could put a ship under it. This particular structure is so big, we'll show you here in just a second. But clearly it has levels. Clearly this top platform is raised above the ground, and there's just so much dimension to see. One of the first things we do, we're going to go ahead and take a look, and we're going to kind of just zoom around this so you can get a clear idea of exactly what we're looking at here. Now, some things we've noticed. First of all, take a look at these, and we're just calling them embankments for lack of a better term. You know, to us, it almost looks like something is underground. This tube right here, or this line that you see, it looks like an embankment, and maybe there's something underground that it's covering. But if you look, you've got this embankment. You have this one, and pretty evenly spaced, you have the next one. Then you have the next one proceeding under this structure. Look how clearly you can see the dimensions of whatever this is. Now, talking about dimensions, just want to show you some kind of crude measurements we can make. Now, obviously, the measurements in Google Moon are never going to be completely exactly accurate, but it gives us an idea. And by these measurements, this would show us it's about 2.2 miles long, just on this top reflective part, and it's about almost a mile wide. Now, extending that down to the bottom embankment, as we're calling it, that's 3.39 miles. Essentially, take the biggest Walmart you've ever seen, times 20 is the size of whatever this is. It's absolutely shocking to me. You would think this would be gigantic news. It is to all of us. But this is one of the clearest things I've ever seen on the moon, and I've looked at thousands and thousands of so-called anomalies. Boy, I guess if you were going to have an alien structure, I guess this would probably look about as alien as one could get. Is it a base? Probably. What is it housing? Well, it's right on the lip here of this hill and this crater area. Now, here's the amazing part. Draw back just a little bit, and you're going to see that on the same line, whether it be longitudinally or latitude-wise, but on the same plane, moving down the scan, we're going to see some other structures that you're probably seeing a little bit that normally I would have just dismissed as mere scratches on the scan. We know the first one isn't, but start looking at just a few of the things that are on the exact same plane, same line, as that first structure. Look at this. This looks like some kind of lit-up, multi-level structure, possibly. What do you think that is? It's pretty amazing. But it gets much better than this. As we go down, we see some other areas that clearly look like they could be some kind of structures, bases. They're lit up. It's a reflective material. Certainly does not look just some geologic anomaly for sure. But here's what gets really important. As we get past these, all the way to the bottom, I'm going to show you something extraordinary. And I would call this decent corroboration of what we're looking on that first big base or structure. It is this right here. And I want to show you something and compare the two. And if this doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. First of all, do you see any similarities between these two? Maybe first off, you'd say no. Look a little deeper for just a moment. Okay, let's look at this on the right. Let's bring that back up. What we have here on the right, which is about 320 miles below the first structure we're looking at here, just so you know, is kind of a stretched out version, pretty exactly, of the first structure that we were looking at. Here's what I mean. Let's go ahead and trace this. If we look at the top here, right, you see that little go around this curve here, and the structure dips back down and kind of makes a U. If you look at the top right here and curves back out, I think that is what this is over here on the right, 321 miles below it. It goes back around, then it has kind of a straighter edge. Do you notice this straighter edge we have on the one on the right? Comes back around here, dips back down, curves back up to the backside, as we'll call it, and that kind of U-shaped curve again. Pretty much the same thing here. Curves back around, comes back up that left backside, just like this one does. This one comes and curves back around again. There's another indentation, we can call it. So does this one right here, and then curves back up. It is very, 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 very similar, these two pictures. Especially if you look at that bottom, in quotes, embankment that I keep talking about. Look at this one here at the bottom. You see there's some distance between the next lines or embankments that you see. Well, look at this one. Isn't that very similar spacing? You notice how this one's a little bit below the next one up, right? So is this one here. Similar spacing between the two. And then you have this embankment or line, and then it's pretty evenly spaced to the next one and to the next one. 1, 2, 3. So is this one. 1, this has more detail, of course. 2, and then you really have several embankments. But do you see the similarities between the two? So what would that tell us? Well, it would tell us that if these are complexes or building, that this is some kind of common architecture for whoever built this. I mean, I guess it would be the same thing if you were looking at Earth and you saw two battleships, one in Florida and one the coast off the coast of China. You would say, look at these two objects. They're not exact, but boy, are they similar. It looks like some common kind of construction is what it looks like. And if you see here on the face of this, you see that's a little at the top, almost looks like a little face, but you have some darker areas. Look at this. You have that on the top of here as well. So just find that extraordinary. You know, it's one thing to find something that really looks like an artificial structure on the moon, but it's quite another to find another anomaly or object that's very, very, very similar to the first one you're looking at. That almost never happens. And I think it's important. So this is what we wanted to talk about today. Go see this. Look at the coordinates. Let's get you right into that right now. Let's go ahead and just get to the coordinates so you can see, and you can see that we're not faking anything here. We're not adding anything. There's nothing we've done with what we're showing you here. No filters, no nothing. Let's go ahead and look at those coordinates for you here. And like I said, we're also going to pop them up here on the page as well. But here are your coordinates. Look for those coordinates. Just go to Google Moon and look at this for yourself. For us here, it's the clearest thing I've ever seen of a real structure that looks like simply a building or a base on the moon, with other things around it within 300 miles that are extremely similar. I wonder why they're all on the same line. Pretty interesting. Well, I hope you feel this hasn't been a waste of your time. We really do thank you for looking at what we do. We've got lots of great stuff coming out here in the next few weeks, so please stay tuned. So, Terry McMahon, thanks for your time, and let's keep the effort going.